Welcome to the review of the remediation exam for anatomy physiology. We are going to start talking about progressively from lecture 1 to lecture 13. Okay, so for lecture 1, what I want you to remember or to study is about the regions of the abdomen. There is many questions that are being included in the region of the abdomen. So you need to memorize. There are some few questions coming. What is superior to the umbilical region? What is inferior to the left hypochondriac region, etc. So you need to remember all these regions. So what are located in the right hypochondriac region? The liver. In epigastrium, the stomach. In the left hypochondriac region, the spleen. The lumbar is going to be the descending colon. Umbilical, the small intestine. Right lumbar, ascending colon. Right iliac or inguinal region, the appendix. Hypogastric, the uterus, the urinary bladder. And the left iliac inguinal or inguinal region, open eyes, open ears, is the sigmoid colon. Okay? All right, so that is about the lecture number 1. Let me close this. Okay. Let's go to lecture number 2. Okay, in lecture number 2, let me see what we are going to find. We are going to talk about the transportation, membrane transportation. When you are talking about membrane transportation, you need to remember that there is 2 groups, passive and active. Passive is going to be the simple diffusion. Simple diffusion, what you're going to see here is that is basically, just a moment, this is upside down. You're going to see in passive diffusion is going to be basically the gas exchange. Gas exchange. Exchange is carbon dioxide and oxygen. Facilitate diffusion are going to be the absorption of carbohydrates, monosaccharides, the lipids, and the amino acids. Okay. And here we have osmosis. Osmosis is happening through the cell membrane. And when we are talking about osmosis, we are talking about hypertonic, hypotonic, and isotonic. What I want to, from all this transportation, first of all, remember what is the simple diffusion best examples. And second, what are the best examples for facilitate diffusion? From the epithelium, I want you to remember the goblet cells. The goblet cells is, remember, when you are talking about the respiratory system, you need to go, and the first thing I want you to remember is the pseudo stratified epithelium. Pseudo stratified epithelium. And that is where it's going to have the goblet cells. We have the goblet cells, and we have, remember, the cilia of the pseudo-stratified. Some of these cells are going to become goblet cells that is going to secrete a mucus. All right, so here we are going to talk about the glia. But first of all, the glia, so we have the nervous tissue. We have the neurons. You already know the anatomy, the body, the axons, the dendrites, the soma, the nucleus, the dendrites, and the terminal axon with the synapses. Okay, so we have the neuroglia. Neuroglia is called glia. Okay, glia, and those are the cells who support and protect the nerve cells. All right, so talking about the lecture number 3, let's close this. Okay, talking about the skeletal system.
Unknown caller.
Okay, talking about the skeleton, first of all, the skin, right? We're talking about the skin. We have the top 2% of the exam are going to come from the skin. And what I want you to remember is basically the epidermis. The epidermis is all this. If I'm going to mark here, the epidermis is all this, from here to here. All this is epidermis. All this is epidermis, all this. The outer layer, that is this one, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers only in the epidermis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers. The outer layer is going to be what we have, the keratin. That is a protein. Very important. And here we have at the end, at the beginning of the epidermis here, we have another component are the melanocytes. So if I ask you where are the melanocytes, you're going to tell me is in the epidermis. Where is the keratin? Keratin protein that is going to be impermeable for water. That is going to be the outer layer of the epidermis. Okay. All right. So just remember we have 3 layers: the epidermis, the dermis, and the hypodermis of the subcutaneous tissue. Okay. So here we have again this is just the epidermis. All this is epidermis. All these are the 5 layers of epidermis. So here we have the keratin. And here we are going to have the melanocytes. See, you see here melanocytes. So melanocytes are the one who contain the melanin. And the melanin is the one who produce the color of the skin. Talking about the skeletal system. In the skeletal system, we are going to have 7 questions for the exam. And for this, we need to remember the anatomy of the bone. The anatomy of the bone, we have in the long bone, this is a classical picture of the epiphysis. That is the distal portion of the bone. We have the diaphysis. That is the diaphysis is called the shaft. The shaft. And here in the shaft, we are going to see a cavity that is the medullary cavity. Medullary cavity. What we have here is fat. Fat. Here we have in the epiphysis, we have the hematopoiesis, that is the bone marrow. Is the bone marrow. The bone marrow is located here. This bone marrow is the one who produces 3 lines, right? The erythropoiesis, the white cells, and the platelets. Okay, so this is the bone marrow. So where is located the bone marrow? In the epiphysis. Where is located the yellow marrow? Yellow marrow is the fat that is located in the diaphysis or in the shaft. You know the functions of the osteoclast and the osteoblast, correct? So remember the osteoclast is going to be affected by the PTH, is the parathyroid hormone. And the osteoblast is going to be activated by the calcitonin. Who produces the calcitonin? The thyroid gland, right? The thyroid gland is the thyroid gland. All right, so please just remember the functions of the osteocyte versus the osteoblast. Osteoblasts are going to bring calcium from the blood into the bone. An osteocyte is taking calcium from the bone to the blood. Who activates the osteocyte? The osteoclast. Sorry.
PTH.
Yeah, the osteoclast is the PTH. And the osteoblast is going to be activated by the calcitonin. So let me see here. Where is the osteoblast? Okay. Oh, there you are. Osteoblast are going to deposit calcium in the bone. And osteoclasts take calcium from the bone to the blood. Okay? Now, osteoblasts are going to be activated by the calcitonin. And the osteoclast is activated by the PTH. Okay, that is clear, I guess. Talking about the bones, I want to remember the cranial bones. How many cranial bones we have? 8. 8 cranial bones. 8 cranial bones. We have one frontal, but we have 2 frontal lobes, right? And below the frontal bone, we have 2 frontal lobes. Parietal, we have 2 parietals, 2 temporal, 1 ethmoidal, 1 sphenoidal, and 1 occipital. 1 occipital bone, but we have 2 occipital lobes. Under the occipital bone, under this, we have the 2 occipital lobes. Okay, so let's see. I want to go over some. Oh, there you are. This is the ribs. Talking about the skeletal system, we are going to talk about the definition of the true ribs are the 7 first that are directly attached to the sternum. False ribs that are actually are going to be attached to the sternum, but between is going to be a cartilage. And floating are not attached to the sternum at all. Some bones that I want you to remember is, let me see, this one. I want to know how many mandibles you have. Only 1. How many maxillas we have? We have 2. The zygomatic is a cheekbone. Okay. All right. So let's keep moving. All right. So talking about the upper extremity. Upper extremity, you know, remember your anatomical position, right? Your anatomical position is telling you that the forearm are going to be composed lateral by the radius and medial the ulnar bone. Okay, so remember always your anatomical position. Remember ulnar, when you have your anatomical position, you're going to have a U is under, right? Under the radius. So that's how you can tell which is the bone. All right, so that is about the skeletal system. Okay, so let's move this. Let's go to number 4, sorry. All right, so talking about the muscular system, let me see. Where is the muscular? Okay. The muscular system, we are going to have about 10% of the exam. So please pay attention on this. So for this, what I want you to remember is few things. Number 1 is the process of the muscle contraction. In the muscle contraction, you remember we was going to start with the electrical impulse, right? Then it's going to release the acetylcholine. And remember this, open eyes, open ears, we have the NMJ, the neuromuscular junction. This is the neuromuscular junction. The electrical impulse is coming here, are going to produce the release of acetylcholine, and the acetylcholine is going to enter sodium into the fiber of the muscle. So all this, can you see this? This is just one cell of the muscle. Multinuclei, we have different striations here, So this is just one cell. This sodium, when they get into the cells through the T tubules, are going to release the calcium, and the calcium is going to release again that acting on the myosin, and that is going to occur the muscle contraction. Okay, so what I want to highlight here is, first of all, we have the neuromuscular junction, who is going to have the receptors for acetylcholine, means cholinergic receptors, and that is going to trigger out the beginning of the muscle contraction. Another thing I forgot to go over here, just remember, this is one fiber, only this. It's like one pencil here is going to be one fiber, that is one cell. The group of pencils together are going to be called fascicle. All these group of fibers are going to be fascicle. And all the fascicles together are going to compose what we call a muscle. Okay? You know that we already talked many more about this, the endosteum, perimysium, endomysium. We are not going to talk about that. So I'm focusing only in what is going to come tomorrow. Okay? All right, so that is about the muscles. Talking about some muscles, we have the muscles of the head, the orbicularis ori, orbicularis oculi is this.
Right.
The orbicularis oris is this. And by the way, just to let you know, this is what is happening to me. So the cranial nerve number 7 is being affected. So I cannot close my eyes. I cannot smile completely. So that is actually facial nerve. So it's the nerve of the expression.
Yeah.
All right. So masseter muscles is the mastication muscle. This is the masseter muscle. It's very potent muscle, mastication. The buccinator, that is for whistling. All right. All right. Okay. So let me see. So for one more question, what is the most what is an important mineral for the muscle contraction? Who can answer me? Okay, so for muscle contraction, the mineral that is important, as you can say, some of you are calcium. It's calcium. Calcium is the most important mineral that is going to be part of the muscle contraction. All right, so just remember we have the gastrocnemius muscle. That is the second heart, remember? Second heart, okay? So because this is one gastrocnemius muscle, 1 and 2. 1 and 2. And here we have a tendon, it is the Achilles tendon. In between this is going to run the popliteal vein. When the muscle contracts, the muscle is going to collapse the popliteal vein, and that is going to eject the blood towards the heart. What is this? Oh, okay. Let's talk about the nervous system. All right. So in the nervous system, we have about 10% of the central nervous system, and we have 5% of the peripheral nervous system. Talking about the nervous system, first of all, what I want you to remember are the division of the brain. The division of the brain. What is the division of the brain? Just a moment, please. Okay, there you are. Here we have all this is the central nervous system. All this guy is the central nervous system. Central nervous system. Why is in the center? What we have here, the cerebrum, number 1. Number 2, we have all this is the brain stem. Sorry, brain stem here, and this is the cerebellum. So we have 1, 2, and 3. We can consider here 4 the diencephalon that is in the middle. Okay, so here we have, just remember which is the brain. The brain is all this. Brain and spinal cord. Brain and spinal cord all together is going to form the central nervous system. So from this I want just to remember that the cerebrum is going to be the cognitive area. Cognitive area are going to be general, okay? Cognitive area, so your intelligence, your concentration, your focus. The sensitive area, sensorial area, touch your hand, that's what you feel, is going to be in the cerebrum. Vision is going to be the vision in the occipital area, right? The motor activity is located basically in the frontal lobe, but I'm not going to ask which lobe have this particular function. So just remember in general, the brain is going to be motor, cognitive, sensorial, vision area that is going to be the cerebrum. Then we have the brain stem, and the brain stem, you need to remember here the medulla oblongata. The medulla oblongata, question for exam, is cardiovascular respiratory center. So that is the area that is going to be affected if, for example, you have a whiplash in car accident. This is the area is going to be mostly affected. So you have arrhythmias, you have respiratory arrest, etc. All right, so let me see. Here we have in the thalamus, in the hypothalamus, in the hypothalamus here we have the diencephalon. This is the diencephalon. You see here diencephalon, and the diencephalon is going to contain the hypothalamus. Okay, and hypothalamus is what is going to be part of the homeostasis, right? Hand by hand with the endocrine system, of course. Okay. All right. So this area is composed by gray matter. Gray matter. So those are commanders. The cortex of the brain is going to have the cortex. So it's like the skin of the orange. That is going to be gray matter too. It's going to be gray matter. So those are the ones who give orders. All right, so in conclusion, what I want you to remember about this is the functions of the brain. The brain stem functions is going to be basically the cardiovascular respiratory center. This is the origin of whom? Of the cranial nerves, the 1 to 12 cranial nerves. Cerebellum, another equation, is for balance and coordination. Balance and coordination. Okay? All right. So, talking about the central nervous system, we are going to talk about the peripheral nervous system very soon. Okay. One thing, I want you to remember that we have one area that is called the meninges. Let me see if I have it here. The meninges. No, it's not here. Okay, there you are. No. The meninges. What are the meninges? The meninges are 3 layers that are going to cover. This is the brain. This is the cerebellum with the brain stem. This is the cerebrum, and this is the spinal cord. So the meninges are 3 layers. 1 layer covering, the second layer covering, and 3 layers covering the whole central nervous system. Not only the brain, not only the brain stem, not only cerebrum, but the whole spinal cord together. So those are called the meninges. The outer layer is going to be called the dura mater. The middle layer is the arachnoids, and the inner layer is going to be the pia mater. So just remember that we have the space between the arachnoid and the pia mater is called the subarachnoid space. Space is not a membrane, space. And that is where it's running who? The CSF. It's going to run in the subarachnoid space, in the subarachnoid space is going to run the CSF. That is the cerebral spinal fluid. Cerebral spinal fluid. Okay, so I think that is about this portion. Oh, the cranial nerves. Talking about the cranial nerves, open eyes, open ears is coming. I select the ones who are considered important. Always important. Number one, the olfactory. One is one nose. Two is optic, two eyes. Then I want you to remember the facial. That is my problem right now. Facial nerve is cranial nerve number 7. The vagus nerve is the wandering nerve that is going to go from the heart to the respiratory to the GI tract. Okay? All right. So what you need to remember, olfactory, optic, facial, vagus nerve. All right. So that is lecture number 4. Let's go to lecture number 5. Lecture number 5, you have the peripheral nervous system, and this picture is important because here you can tell, here we have the electrical impulse. Electrical impulse is coming from the body of the nerve going towards the axon, terminal axon, and then they jump into the next dendrite. The dendrite is going to go to the body, axon, terminal axon, dendrite, body, axon, terminal axon, and that is the way. So that is the way that electrical impulse is going to be transmitted. Just remember that myelin is actually cells, the Schwann cells, who are going to contain fat that is going to accelerate the electrical impulse. Okay, so for this, I want, okay, so you have all the neurotransmitters. When we are going to talk about neurotransmitters, I want you to remember that there is many neurotransmitters that we need to remember. The adrenaline and the acetylcholine, ACH. So that is the most important. Adrenaline is going to be the sympathetic. And the acetylcholine is going to be the somatic and the parasympathetic. Okay, so the parasympathetic are going to have this acetylcholine have the cholinergic receptors. And these cholinergic receptors are going to be the nicotinic, and then the other one is the muscarinic. In the sympathetic, we are going to have alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2. Alpha 1 vasoconstriction, alpha 2 vasodilation. Beta 1 heart rate go up, increase the contractility of the heart. And beta 2 is going to do the bronchodilation. This is very important when you're going to talk about, when we are going to talk about pharmacology. Okay, so let me see. All right, so when one more thing, when you have in the brain, you're going to have myelin. And that is the one who gives the color of the white matter. No myelin, that is going to be the color of the gray matter. Who is the gray matter? The cortex of the brain, the diencephalon. And the white matter is going to be all the axons that are running under the skin of the orange, under the cortex. Those are going to be communicating. That's why they're going to have myelin, because it's going to accelerate the communication. Okay. Let's go to lecture number 6. We are halfway. Okay, so here's actually the endocrine system. In the endocrine system, we are going to have, let me check. Endocrine system, we have 16 questions, so please pay attention to this. All right. We want to skip the sensory. Okay. Talking about the endocrine system, what I want you to remember is, first of all, the axis, right? The axis means that we have the hypothalamus that is the part of the central nervous system that is going to be in relation with the pituitary gland. So that is endocrine system. And that is the pituitary gland is divided in anterior or adenohypophysis. Remember, anterior, adenohypophysis, and then is going to be the posterior or the neurohypophysis. The anterior is going to have the growth hormone, the prolactin, the TSH, the thyroid stimulant hormone, the ACTH, the adrenocorticotropin hormone, the L, the lutein hormone, and the F is the follicular stimulant hormone. And the posterior, we have the oxytocin, and we have the ADH. Please pay attention on the ADH. ADH is the antidiuretic hormone. Who produces the antidiuretic hormone? The posterior pituitary gland. So for this, you need to remember the target organ, the function of the target organ. For example, the growth hormone, the target is bones and muscles. What is going to do? The growth. Prolactin is the production of milk in the target organ, the mammary gland. TSH is going to stimulate the thyroid gland. So the thyroid gland do not produce TSH. The TSH is the one who are going to arrive to the thyroid gland from the pituitary gland. And then the thyroid gland is going to be able to produce the T3 and T4. The ACTH are going to be target organ, the cortex of the adrenal gland to produce aldosterone, cortisol, and sex hormones. Luteal hormone, the L, is the one who is going to produce the ovulation on the ovary. And FSH, the follicular stimulant hormone, is the one who produces the proliferation of the follicles in the ovary. Now, in the posterior pituitary gland, posterior or the neurohypophysis, we have the ADH, and the ADH is the target organ is going to be the kidney. And the kidney, what it's going to do is to reabsorb water. And the other one is the oxytocin. Oxytocin that is going to eject milk. The prolactin produce milk. Okay. So for that, we already, so please, all what I mentioned is most likely is on the exam.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so here just remember your calcitonin, the thyroid gland, this is the thyroid gland, The thyroid gland is going to produce calcitonin. And the calcitonin, what it's doing is to activate the osteoblast. And what is doing the osteoblast is going to take the excess of calcium from the blood and put it back into the bone. Then we have another, that is the calcium going to get into normal values. Again, please, one more thing. For the exam are going to come the values of calcium. So please, calcium is between 8.5 to 10 milligrams to deciliter. Then we have calcium here. When the calcium is too low, what happens when the calcium is too low? When the calcium is too low, so what you need to do is this 8.5, less than 8.5 is going to stimulate. Can you see these yellow things? That is the parathyroid gland. The parathyroid gland who produce what? The PTH. And the PTH, what is going to activate is in the bone the osteoclast. And the osteoclast, what is taking is calcium from the bone towards the blood. And they are going to reach again the 8.5 to 10. That is the calcium homeostasis. Okay, talking about the adrenal gland, I want you to remember the adrenal gland here. Here we have, this is the cortex. And here in the middle is the medulla. The medulla is the one who produces epinephrine and norepinephrine. Why? Because they are related to the sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system. And the cortex is related to the ACTH that is coming from the pituitary gland under orders of the hypothalamus. All right, so that is the endocrine system. At the end, I'm going to make a summary of mostly of the questions, so please stay tuned until the end. Okay, let's go lecture 7. Okay, lecture 7 here in the blood, what I want you to remember is, first of all, the pH of the blood. pH of the blood is 735 to 745. You know what is plasma? Plasma is 55% of all the blood. How much blood you have in your body? 4 to 5 liters. So 55%, more than a half of the blood is going to be just plasma. You can see I'm not going to ask about the coagulation process. The heart. Talking about the heart, we have the 3 layers of the heart. We have the endocardium. We have the myocardium that is giving blood supply by the coronary arteries, and the epicardium. Don't get confused with the pericardium. Pericardium is this layer. Can you see this layer membrane? This is a double layer membrane, visceral and parietal layer. That is the pericardium. And that pericardium is surrounding the heart. That is the pericardium. Epicardium is the outer layer of the heart, endocardium the inner layer, and myocardium is the middle layer. Okay, so for this, you need to really be master on the cavities of the heart. So I'm going to select specifically some few things. So what is coming in and coming out from the right atrium? Coming in is the superior vena cava. Coming in is the inferior vena cava. Where? In the right atrium. What is coming out from the right ventricle? The pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery coming this way, they go to the right, to the one of the lungs, and to the other way here, another to the lungs, another branch. And then we have returning, after the blood is receiving oxygen, is coming back towards the pulmonary veins, who receive oxygen. They come and go to the left ventricle and is coming out through the aorta. All right, so you need to know the valves very well. One thing I want you to remember here is about the coronary arteries. Coronary arteries is a branch of the aorta who is going to give 2 coronary arteries, right and left, who is being giving blood supply to the myocardium. All right. So that was lecture number 7. Let's go to lecture number 8. For this, what I want you to must remember always is this. Blood pressure. What is the blood pressure? Blood pressure is equal to, say, the cardiac output times the times multiplication. Multiplication times, no summation, no division, multiplication times the peripheral resistance. If the peripheral resistance I have, for example, we have alpha-1 vasoconstriction, that is going to increase the peripheral resistance. If you increase the peripheral resistance, your blood pressure going up. You have alpha-2. You have alpha-2 that produce vasodilation. So the peripheral resistance, the resistance to the flow is going to be lower. It's going to be easier to flow. So if the peripheral resistance go down, your blood pressure go down. So that is the basic things to know about the treatment of hypertension. The cardiac output is going to be the volume of ejection times again the heart rate. The heart rate. The volume is the venous return. What is the venous return? Is the blood coming from the IVC and the superior vena cava. Where they're going to go? They're going to go to the right atrium. So the this volume, you already know the blood pressure is cardiac output times the peripheral resistance. If you decrease the volume, for example, using diuretics, make you pee a lot, you're losing water. So this volume is going to decrease, the cardiac output and decrease the blood pressure. The heart rate. At the heart rate, you're going to have, for example, beta 1. That is going to stimulate by the adrenaline, of course, right? When you get upset, you get upset, you have the heart rate going up. Why? Because you are stimulating the beta 1. Beta 1 increase the heart rate, is going to stimulate the cardiac output and the blood pressure go up. So what you need to remember for this part is very clear what is your cardiac output, what is the equation for the blood pressure. Conclusion, blood pressure equal cardiac output times the peripheral resistance, and cardiac output is volume ejection times the heart rate. That is critical. If you don't know this, you're going to have very serious problems in your pharmacology. Okay. So that was about the heart. Next is talking about the lecture number 9. In lecture number 9, let me see what we have here. Oh, here we are going to talk about what I want you to talk is about the flora. The flora and the lymphatic system is okay. We are not going to go too much about that. Yeah, so this is lecture 9. So what I want you to know about, remember about this part is basically there's no questions about this in this exam. Yeah, some definitions. What is neoplasm? What is a metabolic disorder? When you are talking about metabolic disorder, please remember we are talking about, for example, gallbladder stone. We are talking about thyroid problems. Okay, metabolic disorders. Okay, so let's see, number 9, number 10, yes. Okay, so talking about the immune system. We have few questions here. I'm not going to go over that. I'm going to just tell you what I want you to remember. First of all, we have the lymphocytes. Sorry. We have the lymphocytes. And please, I'm going to remark what you need to know. B and T, you already know why is B and T. B, we have the B memory. B memory. And the plasmatic cells. This is important, plasmatic cells. These plasmatic cells are going to produce the antibodies. Antibodies are the markers for destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And the lymphocyte T, we have the CD4, that is the T helper.
Mm-hmm.
We have the CD8. Okay, forget about CD8. We are going to call the T killer cells or cytotoxic. Then we have the T killer cells, then we have the T memory cells, and the T regulator.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the most, well, everything's important, but the one who commands everybody is the T helper.
Mm-hmm.
The T helper is the one who is going to order the plasmatic cells, is going to order the memory cells. T helper order the T killer, the T memory, and the T regulator. Okay, so
Right.
the T helper is actually the pivot for all these systems.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm not going to tell you that you should know already what is the 5 cardinal signs of inflammation. So this is something that you must know. Digestive system. Digestive system, again, is the huge one. It's going to be 16 questions about digestive system. And for digestive system, number one, what I want you to review or make emphasis, I'm going to go here, number one, the flora. The flora that actually at the end, what is going to produce is the vitamin K.
Okay.
Two, for example, I want to know what are the functions of the GI system. And you already know that is ingestion, digestion, absorption,
Mm-hmm.
and excretion.
Mm-hmm.
Please, metabolism is part of the function of the liver.
Mm-hmm.
Number three, I want to know what is the division of the upper and the lower GI tract. You know the oropharynx to the duodenum, that is the upper, and that is melena when it's bleeding, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have the jejunum to the rectum,
Mm-hmm.
that is the lower GI tract.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are bleeding from there, it's not going to be melena, it's going to be dark, but not melena.
Mm-hmm.
Then you need to remember, please, your accessory organs, the accessory organs, who are the tongue, the
Mm-hmm.
teeth, the salivary glands.
And
In the salivary glands, you have 3 pairs of glands. The largest is the parotid gland.
mm-hmm.
Parotid gland, the largest gland is the parotid gland. Okay. One more thing. What are the functions of the liver? The ABC. Produce albumin, produce
Mm-hmm.
bile,
Mm-hmm.
and produce the coagulation factors. So that is the main thing you need to remember about this liver or accessory organ. Another thing, let's. Oh my God. Okay, so another one that I want you to remember is what is the pyloric area or the pylorus. The pylorus is between the stomach and the duodenum.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that is going to be an sphincter. Don't get confused. The stomach has the pyloric area here. This is the pyloric area. But here we have a sphincter that is called the pylorus. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So just remember we have the chemical, mostly of the chemical digestion is going to happen in the duodenum. Duodenum. Most of the chemical digestion are going to happen in the duodenum. Where is going to come? The chyme. Is going to come the bile. Is going to come the pancreatic juice, and that is the duodenum. Okay. Talking about the pancreatic juice, I want you to remember the pancreatic juice. We have the amylase. What is doing the amylase? Is digest carbohydrates. The protease is going to digest proteins, and the what? And the lipase is going to fats. Excellent. What is the function of the bile? Function of the bile is what? The emulsification. The emulsification. Okay, so and in addition to that, I add here in this exam all the regions, 1 to 9 regions, right? So what is in each region? That's what we talk in the first part of the review. So that is about the GI tract system. Okay. Okay, electrolytes are going to be 16% of the exam. So the largest topics are going to be the endocrine, the GI system, and the water and electrolytes. And ABGs, water, electrolytes, and ABGs. So for this, I want you to remember this, please. So it's all right, so I want you to remember the intra and the extra. So I'm going to write it down here one more last time here. Intra and extra. Intracellular and extracellular. In the extracellular, we have what? The sodium, between 135 to 145. This value is coming for the exam, so open eyes, open ears. We have the chloride, negative. Remember the symbols, okay? I don't care about the values of chloride, 90 to 100, 110. It's not important. Intra, we have the potassium. Potassium is 35 to 45. Can you see here? Or 3 point, well, I mean, what I'm talking. It's 3.5 to 5. And we have the phosphate. Don't remember this an anion. Anion, cation. Okay? Remember who is the one who has more percentage of water in your body. So remember in children, water is going to be 80% of your weight. In adult, it's going to be 60%, and in elderly, about 55%. All right, so this is a question for the exam, so please don't forget that. Another thing I want you to remember is the acid base. Just a moment, I want to see who is there. Okay. So here we have the pH, right? 735 to 745. Okay. So for this, I want you to remember this. Hydrogens is acid. What is the opposite of hydrogen? The bicarbonate, please, is alkaline. Is alkaline. For this, you're going to have that the alkali, please open eyes, open ears very well. The bicarbonate is a weak base, and the acid is going to be strong acid. There is weak acids, but hydrogen is a strong acid. There is strong bases, but the bicarbonate is a weak base. Okay. All right. So for this, just to complete this portion, we are going to talk about the respiratory acidosis. You have you're going to have here. If you remember, we are going to talk about the pH and the carbon dioxide, correct? In the respiratory acidosis, you have the pH low, correct? Is the respiratory acidosis, the carbon dioxide is up. Remember ROM. Respiratory opposite, the pH and carbon dioxide. The first thing you're going to look is the pH, and the second is you're going to look is the carbon dioxide. So that is coming for the exam, so please. Then we have the respiratory alkalosis. What is a respiratory alkalosis? The pH is high, number one, and number two is opposite, is going to be
down.
The carbon dioxide down. Then we have the metabolic. Metabolic, ME means metabolic equal. Metabolic acidosis is going to be acidosis, pH is number one, you can see, right? What you see is the pH first. So your pH in acid is low. But metabolic should be the carbon dioxide high or low? Should be low too, because they are going to have in equal direction. Metabolic equal direction. Metabolic alkalosis is going to be alkalosis, pH first. Your pH is high. And is metabolic, the carbon dioxide should be up again in the same direction. Okay? All right. So that is about, I guess, this. Talking about the reproductive. Okay, so in the reproductive, I want you to do a few things. In the gonads, what is the testicles and the ovaries, correct? The gonads are going to have the ovum and it's going to have the spermatozoid. The ovum is going to have 23 chromosomes, please. And the spermatozoid is going to have 23 chromosomes too. Okay? One ovum is going to have 23 chromosomes. And one spermatozoid, 23 chromosomes, not 23 pairs. I said 23 number chromosomes. When they join together, that is the moment that you have 46 chromosomes. Okay? Okay. So, and remember, these gonads are going to have a process called meiosis. It's the only part in your body who has meiosis. The testicles and in the ovaries. If you remember, here we have the spermatozoids. The spermatozoids are going to be formed in the seminiferotubules. Seminiferotubules is the spermatozoids. Okay? We have the Leydig cells that produce what? Testosterone. And the Sertoli cells that are going to nourish the spermatozoids. The Sertoli cells are inside the seminiferous tubules, and the Leydig cells are outside, in between the seminiferous tubules. All right, so the division of the reproductive, female reproductive system are going to be, the division of the female reproductive system is going to be the uterus and the annexa. What is the nexa? Are going to be the ovaries
Mm-hmm.
and the fallopian tubes. And this is the last one, but I forgot to mention something here. Okay, so we already know about all this. We already talked about. I'm not going to ask about first trimester, second trimester. So that is something you're going to check in your maternity. But what I want to do is something that I just want to review here. Okay, is the respiratory system.
Mm-hmm.
In the respiratory system, and that is the last thing we are going to talk. In the respiratory system, you have the upper and the lower respiratory system. The upper going from the oropharynx to the larynx, and the lower from the trachea to the lungs. Okay, so we have the larynx here. On the top, we have the epiglottis. Epiglottis. That is going to open when you talk, and when it's going to close is when you're eating. Okay, so what is the main functions of the respiratory system? First of all is the oxygenation. So please don't miss a question. The oxygenation. Oxygenation is going to be gas exchange. Okay, and basically is actually that. About the ventilation. Ventilation and oxygenation. So please, those are the main functions of the respiratory system. Ventilation is going to be the gas. Is going to be the diaphragm that is important for the inspiration, and the intercostal muscles for the expiration. The oxygenation is going to be the gas exchange. Okay. One thing that we have in the respiratory system, I want you to remember the tidal volume. Tidal volume, remember that was part of the lung volumes. Lung volume, remember, liver, right? Lung volumes is the inspiratory reserve volume, tidal volume, the expiratory reserve volume, and the residual volume. The tidal volume is the volume of air inhaled and exhaled in each normal breath. So whatever you're breathing right now, yes. So that is your tidal volume. That is a tidal volume. When you have, for example, another some terminology that we are going to use is the bradypnea. There's lower respiration rate. Tachypnea is higher respiratory rate, and the respiratory rate goes between 60 to 20. That is the normal. We have one term that I want you to remember is the rhinorrhea. What is rhinorrhea? Runny nose. Is the runny nose. Okay, I guess that is all the review. I'm going to stop the recording.